And in business news, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has unveiled the government's spending plan for 2025. At nearly $98 billion, it's the largest budget in the country's history. The government is allocating around $3 billion. That's the highest so far to social assistance programs through cash transfers. Others would benefit some 9 million people. From what CNA's Melissa Goh joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. Melissa, the government intends to, and I use Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's words, rationalise subsidies for petrol and boarding schools. This will, amongst other reasons, prevent the top 15% of earners from benefiting unfairly. What would this rationalisation involve, and what would it mean?
You know, although some said that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, in doing so, targeting the top 15% appears a little populist. It's, after all, he said he described it himself as people's budget. Now, 40% of the huge subsidy bills all these years went to subsidize the rich as well as foreigners. So it's high time, he said, to remove the subsidies from them. Now, the question is, how do you do it? It's going to be executed on the ground because implementation is key to prevent leakage and wastage. Now, I spoke with Transport Minister Anthony Loke after the budget was tabled, and he said that the government is still fine-tuning the mechanism. The government has till middle of next year. There's still about 8 months to go to roll it out. So there will be 2 prizes at pump, he said. So motorists may have to show their ID or some form of identification in order to pump at the subsidized price. Now, the main point here is majority of the population will not be affected by the petrol price increase. Now, the government will have to fork out still some 12 billion ringgit, some $2.8 billion to subsidize 85% of the population. Now, the savings of some $1.8 billion will be used to improve healthcare, education, and the welfare of the people. Now, Prime Minister Anwar, he was rather cautious. It is seen as rather cautious move in dealing with the subsidy, and that's understandable because people are so spooked by this RON 95 subsidy cut, which may send prices skyrocket. They said now already many are struggling with their daily lives in putting food on the table with rising costs. Now let's hear it from Mr. Anwar himself. He took great pain to explain and to assure the people during the almost 3-hour-long speech.
Kerajaan akan mengekalkan subsidi untuk majoriti rakyat seperti penyasaran subsidi elektrik. Maknanya 85% rakyat tidak terkesan dengan perubahan penyasaran subsidi RON 95. Dan bagi mengelakkan kekeliruan, saya tegaskan sekali lagi bahawa tanggungan subsidi masih diteruskan bagi 85% rakyat.
Our subsidies will stay in place for 85%. We just heard that from Prime Minister. Of course, as you mentioned, Melissa, talk of subsidies always spooks people, and it could affect growth because it affects consumer sentiment, also affecting the amount of revenue government has to generate growth in the country. Now, the Finance Ministry upgrading growth forecast for this year from 4.8 to 5.3%. Given the other measures we've heard, is this outlook likely to last for 2025?
Well, looking at the numbers and the projections laid out in the budget and the economic outlook report, Prime Minister Anwar's government is bullish that growth in 2025 is going to come in just as strong, between 4.5% and 5.5%, supported by strong domestic demand and high investment and higher trade with improved global economy. Now, Malaysia is in kind of a sweet spot, being one of the beneficiaries of China Plus One policy. The E&E sector, especially the semiconductor industries, is thriving, driven by the AI boom. The big global tech companies are coming in one after another, with data centers mushrooming across the country, especially in the southern state of Johor. And the ringgit too has strengthened. It's now one of the top performers in the region. Now, Prime Minister Anwar is upbeat when he talked about raising the ceiling and growing the economic pie, but he's also mindful of lifting the floor, improving wages, and that is easier said than done.
Oh, thanks. Melissa Goh there reporting on Malaysia's new budget, reporting from Kuala Lumpur.